Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am continuing on my ayahuasca series. So, if you haven't seen the first two parts, you can go check those out, but it's not necessary at this time, so you can also watch them later. So, in the first part, I talked about the facility that I did ayahuasca at this time. I did it at Soltara, and they had a temporary time that they were holding ceremonies in Peru. And I was lucky enough to be able to do my ceremony in Sacred Valley in Peru with Shipibo Maestros, which the Maestros are shamans, but there is no word shaman in the Shipibo language. So they do a great job of keeping the tradition extremely pure, authentic, and the way that it has been done for thousands of years and passed down in their lineage. I was lucky enough to be able to do it with the maestro and maestra, who is, mother and son. And it was just such an amazing experience to have this family dynamic with our healers. And then, this mother son. And then we also have the mother of Mother Ayahuasca. So, if you're interested, you can go check out the first video in this playlist where I break down the facility, the method, the schedule, everything to expect if you are going to go to Soltara. And I highly suggest that you do because it's a very authentic way, but brought into the modern world. So the ceremony is 100% authentic, but outside of the ceremony, the facility, the food, the what they call ceremonies, which are group shares, and the facilitators and all of that is really tailored to be pretty much the safest that you can be. And in the last part, I talked about the first night of my ayahuasca ceremonies, which there are 4 ceremonies in a 7-day retreat. We do 2 days, a break, and then 2 days. So in the last part, I got all into the details of my first night, and it was rough. This was not my first time doing ayahuasca. I had done 4 ceremonies at another retreat last year, exactly 1 year before, and that was intense. And this was 100 times more intense. So, I came out of my first ceremony at Soltara, and when I was first kind of feeling the medicine on the first night, I was like, "Oh my God, this is the real deal. This is the real deal." So, going through that whole journey of the first night, I had only taken 3/4 of a cup, which, is not anything specifically crazy. It's kind of an average dose, but I was feeling the medicine until 5:30 in the morning. So on day 2, which is the next day, it's actually the 3rd day of the retreat because you don't do medicine the first day you arrive. So we're just talking about the ceremonies here. The day 2 for ceremonies. Early that morning, we start again. I actually somehow, I don't know how I was feeling the medicine until 5:30 in the morning, but still at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever it was, I still ended up making it to yoga. I was the only one who arrived at yoga, so I had a personal yoga and I could barely get my pants on. So, but I figured, I'm like, you know what? I'm only here for this. I'm only here for a week. You only do this once in your life. I know I'm tired. I know I'm exhausted. I know I haven't slept, but when do I have the opportunity to do this? And I know I'm going to feel a lot better doing the yoga because my whole body hurt, and that was really just because of the not sleeping and the tossing and turning. So I do the yoga, go to breakfast, and then after breakfast, we have our next ceremony, which is basically like a group share. We go back into the same room, the Maloka. The Maloka is the healing room that we have all the ceremonies in. So we all meet again with the facilitators and with the maestros, who are like the shamans, quote unquote. And then we each share about our experience that night. How did the dose feel? What came up? And also relative life experience. So if you watched the first part, we talked a little bit about what the Shipibo method is actually doing. So the way that it was best described to me and most simply described is that, so imagine that these maestros are able to, when they sit in front of you, and now this is like an extremely intimate way to do ayahuasca. Last time I did it was absolutely life-changing. However, it was a very large group. So we didn't get any like one-on-one time really with the shaman unless you were really going through it, having a hard time and needed help. So in this one, every single night you get alone time with that shaman, every single night with both of the maestros. So the way that this method works, that this tradition works, is it's complete darkness. There's no instruments, there's no songs being played. All it is singing. And so what they're singing is called Icaros. The Icaros are the healing songs. These are sacred songs. And these songs are not just something that they learn. These are songs that they have to go through these plant dietas that take months and months and months of living in the jungle, basically coming down to almost like a starvation level. They live on very little, and then they commune and drink teas of these plants. These plants are not ayahuasca. These are other healing plants of the jungle in Peru. And these healing plants, they have all different, the jungle is like a plant pharmacy. So as they do these dietas where they get close with this plant and they're able to connect with it, after a certain level, the plant will telepathically give them healing songs. And then these are the healing songs, these Icaros, that they are able to sing in ceremony. So here is something that comes from I'm also streaming on TikTok here. So these here is a little tapestry that I bought from the Maestra who was holding the ceremony. And these little patterns that we see here, these are a representation of the Icaros. You see, these are the representation of the Icaros here. And so when you hear them sing, their voice does these type of pulsations and like their voice literally, if you look up Shipibo Icaros on Spotify, you can hear versions of it. But honestly, in that moment, in that room, they sound much, much more beautiful and powerful than the ones on Spotify. But if you want a sound, so Icaro is Icaro, Icaro. And these are coming from the plants. So this is a visual representation of the Icaro. And then it's also, this is like what the visuals of the ayahuasca look like. These look like patterns everywhere. So it's really amazing what they're able to do. So in these ceremonies, complete darkness, and then they sing these Icaros, and these Icaros guide the energy of the ayahuasca. Now, in the first retreat that I had gone to, a lot of the power is given to Mother Aya. The medicine knows what to do. The medicine is doing the work. The medicine is intelligent. The medicine is in charge. Surrender to the medicine. Now, in the Shipibo tradition, they still have all of that concept, but it's actually a little bit different in the sense that they say, the maestros, which, like maestro means teacher or master. So the maestros are actually guiding the ayahuasca. They're facilitators of this ayahuasca realm. So it's like, yes, the ayahuasca is intelligent and it is doing the healing. The ayahuasca is doing its work. However, they are the guide of the ayahuasca. So what happens in the ceremonies is at a certain point, the maestro or the maestra will sit in front of you. And when they sit in front of you in this complete darkness, they're able to see your energy field. And the way that it was described to me is similar to this, like a pattern, so to speak. And everybody has their individual pattern of their own energetic signature. But over time in life, these lines can become intertwined, can become twisted, can become darkened, can become dim, can become a little knotted, a little tight. So when they sit in front of you, they're able to see, oh, these lines are twisted. This is out of place. This is out of alignment. There's a dark patch around the head. There's a dark patch around the heart. There's a dark patch around the liver. So in their Shipibo language, they don't have words for depression, anxiety, things like that. These diagnoses that we have in English and other languages, obviously. And what they are doing is that they're able to see that there's something wrong in the energy field. So after the first night of ceremony where they've worked with us, so first day, like I said in the last video, we meet with them in the group ceremony in the daytime, and we tell them our intention. So in the first day, what I told them my intention was I wanted to work on love, and not just romantic love, but like the first time I did ayahuasca was the first time I ever really felt like the love of God, the love of the universe. I was raised going to church, and I was like, are people lying? Like you feel it, you feel something. Okay. Other people can feel that through that. That never felt that way to me. But I always still believed in something. And this is obviously what led me on this path to be a seeker, to seek this information out and to be a spirituality researcher, an unknown researcher, afterlife researcher, led me to all of this stuff. But I couldn't feel it in my heart. I had all the information in my head. But then after I did ayahuasca for the first time, that was the first time I felt it drop to my heart. And my mind changed a lot, actually, because I had so many questions. And after I did ayahuasca for the first time, I don't really care about some questions because I feel like the answers don't matter about a lot of things anymore. So, if you guys have watched like my stuff on TikTok and stuff like that, it's changed. I'm not putting out all this information and all of those things because it's almost like, oh, now because I can feel it in my heart, it doesn't matter as much. And so my intention, I went into Soltara not having a very clear idea of what my intentions were. I felt like, okay, I healed my heart a lot in the last journey. I want to go deeper into that. I want to go deeper into my path, and I want to go deeper into that love. I felt the love of the universe. I felt the love of God. I felt trusting of the whole entire process that I was like, okay, I want to go deeper into that. So, they give you this hero's journal. And one of the things in this hero's journal is Dr. Gabor Mate, who is one of the board members of Soltara. He does a little thing in here about how to write intentions, and also specifically intentions for ayahuasca. Sorry, I was just drinking soda water. Show me, help me, or teach me are the best ways to pick a intention. So I was like, okay, teach me about love, if that's the type of wording that is best to do it. Now, that first night, what I soon found out is being taught about love was not exactly the issue. That is not exactly why Mother Ayahuasca brought me back to her and brought me back to ceremony. It wasn't only to teach me about love, it was actually to show me that there was some self-hatred in me that was actually so foreign to me because, it was my birthday like a day ago. So, I'm a Leo, and that is foreign to me because I'm like, I'm great. I like myself. The world is the problem, not me. But there was very deep in me, and I talk about that in the last video of why this wound was inside of me, and it had been in there since I was born, since before I was born. So every cell in my body formed originally with this self-hatred wound. And I had actually a lot of shame about even having it or speaking about it. And so that next day, second day after, for the second ceremony in the morning when we have our little ceremony, and then the maestros are basically saying like, okay, how was the dose last night? How was this? How was this? And I was like, okay, if this would have been my first time ever doing ayahuasca, I would have ran the hell out of here. But I trust the medicine. I trust you guys. I trust this place. I trust everything. So I'm ready to go. If you want to give me more tonight, I'll take more. If you want to give me less, I'll take less. You want to give me the same, I'll take it. I'm surrendering to it. I trust it. I trust that I'm here for the right reason. but I got my ass kicked and I'm scared as hell from yesterday. And I'm a little nervous going into tonight, but I trust the process. And so, and then I told them what ended up coming up for me is that I originally thought that I was coming here, to learn about love or something. And then I realized that I was coming to remove something that was so deep inside of me that it was even hidden from me. It was the true shadow, the true unconscious. It was, I had done a lot of shadow work in the last 6 months, and this was even deeper because, a lot of the other shadow work that I had been doing was connected to events and these things. And this is something that was like inside of me. So the maestro decided it would be best if I took a little bit less medicine. So I went from 3/4 of a cup to a little over half of a cup. So about half. And so they agreed to change my dose later that night. And now they also want to know about your relative life experience too, because so last night the maestro looks at your energy field, sees that there's patches and spots around. Now they hear what came up, they hear how much you took, they hear your relative life experience, and then they're like, oh, now I know exactly what to do. So that first night is a bit of a diagnostic night. They see the energy. The next day they hear about and they get clarity. And then they say, okay, now I know what to fully do for this person. Now I know the medicine that they need. So, one of the examples that I heard was like, say someone the next day is like, I was having a lot of anger about stuff coming up. And then like say, oh, let's say example, they had a dark patch near their liver. The liver is connected to anger a lot of times. So like, oh, like, things like that. So then, I would imagine, and they don't tell you what they see because that's not really helpful. Their job is to bring you back into balance. It's not to cure, to miracle, to this. It's to bring you back to this original pattern that is your energetic signature that you are born with and that you are meant to have in this life. That is the true you. So, we get into the second ceremony that night. Now, also, I had been vegetarian for a very long time. I don't know, 12 years, 13 years, something like that. And so the second day, they were serving for lunch, and you're not allowed to eat dinner. You eat lunch around 1 p.m., and then you don't eat for the rest of the day because you need to have an empty stomach in order for the ayahuasca. It helps you with like not purging as much and all of that. So there is vegan, vegetarian food and stuff, but because I had such a rough night, it was a little hard for me to eat. And then they were serving chicken for lunch. And so I didn't eat the chicken because I hadn't eaten chicken in over a decade. So by the time we got into ceremony, I was starving. My stomach was empty. I felt not great. I already didn't feel great the whole day. So I was a little nervous coming in. I had felt crazy, crazy, crazy experience the night before. So I felt like, oh my God, I'm a little nervous coming in today, but I trust it. So I actually was the last person to drink. So they start at a different point. So it's not the same person drinks first every night. So like the first night I drank third. The second night I drank last because the person next to me drank first. So they go around the whole room, and then I was the last person to be able to drink the medicine that night. So that, depending on, the group of people, how much attention each person needs from the maestro and from the facilitators, it could take about 30 minutes or so before the first person and the last person drinks. So I'm a bit nervous, because I already was not feeling okay. I was already hungry. I was already like, oh God, I don't know what's going to happen tonight. So by the time that I had taken the medicine, the guy who drank first, who was next to me, was already purging. So some people had issues with keeping the medicine down. It would just purge from them instantly. Now, thankfully, I've never had that issue, but I already wasn't feeling great. So to hear someone purging right as you're just getting the taste of the ayahuasca, which is so, strong in your mouth, and then hearing someone vomiting really hard, and then another person starts vomiting and another person starts vomiting. And I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, don't let it get to you. Don't let it get to you. And thankfully, I'm not someone who can vomit easily at all. So it's not like it's going to trigger me because I can't get it out anyway. But I'm like, okay, don't let it affect you. Stay in your own head. Stay in your own head. Stay in your own head. They're okay. They're safe. I don't need to worry about them. Everyone's in good hands. don't listen to it. Don't let it get to you. And then I kept saying like, okay, I trust it. I trust the process. And then it starts to kick in pretty quickly. I don't know, maybe about 20 minutes or so. Probably because also my stomach was feeling very empty because I only ate like a little bit of fruit and a little bit of vegetable that day. So, it was kicking in very quickly, and instantly I feel the vibrating in my hands. I see the visuals starting. Now, the visuals are not as intense as the first night, but they're still very intense. So I'm seeing, patterns, and like it's like flaps of reality and flashes, and it's pulsing through my body. My hands are vibrating. I'm feeling like waves and waves of intensity, and it's not enjoyable. And again, same thing like the night before. I feel like, damn, I always forget this part. Like I always forget this part. This part is the uncomfortable part when it first starts kicking in. Gosh. And then Mother Aya completely takes over me, takes over my body, takes over my mind, and I'm shaking, and I feel it like I need to purge. I feel like, oh gosh, it's going to come up. So then I get some clarity, because on the first night, I really couldn't get too much information. This night, I'm getting the clarity of like, okay, the self-hatred needs to be removed from you, and we're going to get it out of you tonight. And so I go over to like my bucket, but obviously I can't get anything out. And I'm feeling like hot and cold and pulsing and shaking and all of this stuff. But I know I'm like, okay, I can't stop this. I need this out. So like whatever this takes, whatever needs to happen for this to be removed from me once and for all, so I can live my life. This has been with me every single step I've ever taken. This has been with me every decision I've ever made in my whole life, you know? And I get like the revelation of like, damn, this is all I've ever known, which is why I could not identify it. I could not identify that this has been with me my whole entire life. As long as I've known myself, it's always been there. And that's the reason I've never identified with it, because it's like, if you only saw through this one lens, you would have no idea what it looks like without that lens. Almost like being in a cult, right? Like if you're in a cult, you don't know what a real normal life is like. You only know the life you've lived. So having this wound of self-hatred, the reason it was blind for me is because I've never known anything else. I've never seen life without it. I've never felt anything without it. I've never made a decision without it. So it was such a revelation to me that I'm like, damn, like, and then I also felt shame about it, but I still, when we were in that sharing ceremony, I did share it. And then a couple of the other people in the group also brought up self-hatred after I had said it. And, obviously it's something, that people would feel shameful about, which is also why I'm saying it here, because there might be people who have that wound as well, have that feeling as well. And now for me, I didn't see it in my regular life. The only time I saw it come up is if I was like really exhausted, really hungry, really uncomfortable, things got really bad. Those were the moments where I saw it come up, or I felt it come up, or I had that thought. But in my normal life of comfort and things that I've made comfortable for myself, in my adult life, I couldn't identify it. So, and then I start and I'm, over my bucket during this, by the way, trying to get it out, trying to let this freaking parasite, is what it feels like, get out of me once and for all. And, I feel myself having to purge, but it felt almost like it was like holding on, and not like an entity, but just like it's something that doesn't want to let go, because is it a fear of what would I be without it? I don't know what I am without it. Obviously I know in my mind, but this is like survival. This is like something that was there because of survival. This is something that is before the mind. This is something that is there on like this crazy, core level. So I was thinking, as I'm over the bucket and I'm trying to get stuff out, I'm getting a lot of flashes of the ways that this has played out in my life. And it's played out in every decision. You know, when I was a freshman in high school, I I got accepted to some school, like this, like kind of smart school. I mean, that's what like everyone kind of used to call it, as like a, I don't know, as a joke or just as a description. But it was like some type of school. It wasn't a charter school. It was like an academic school, is what they called it. And it's like, it used to, at that time that I went, was one of the best high schools in the country. And I did not want to go there. I was like, this is a nerd school. I don't have any friends. Like, I mean, I did have friends there because I would make friends anywhere, but I didn't enjoy being there. I was like, so basically what I did is I got myself kicked out of the school. So I got expelled from this school and then ended up going to like, the regular school, which was like one of the worst schools in the country, So like I literally had this very extreme thing. And it's like, that self-sabotage. Looking back at different jobs that I've had where like when I really would start to get like building up the success train, I would sabotage and be like, I don't want to fucking do this. You know? I would have different like job opportunities and money making opportunities and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't want this shit. Maybe there was, I mean, I can't think of anything romantically, but like, I did pick people who also had a self-hatred wound as well, which then just led to more traumatic shit happening, So like always, as like I was actually always in my own way, but not in a way that was so blatant. Like, cause it wasn't like I was, destroying myself with drinking or destroying myself with drugs or something like that. Obviously, when I was very young, I did that. But in my adulthood, I didn't. So, like, it was hidden, it was concealed. And it was like, with money, with business, and then especially, sexually, a lot of sexual behavior was a form of self sabotage as well, was a form of self punishment and coming from self hatred. And especially, I mean, when I was younger, I've talked about in these videos already that I've been celibate for 3 years, but um, these different things, these people that I've dated, these partners, this stuff, like things that I've played out, doing these things, I'm going to tell these, Illuminati sex party stuff too, like, I mean, not like children or anything, like don't get dramatic. But crazy shit. I've been living in Hollywood. I've been living in New York. I live in these places. I know. I'm in the know of the stuff. And like I said, nothing crazy, horrible, disgusting like that. But like a lot of things that have played out that have actually been forms of self-sabotage that might conceal itself as empowerment, that might conceal itself as fun, that might conceal itself as exploration or this or that. And was actually a form of this self-hatred playing out. So I'm over the bucket and I'm like trying to get something out. I'm yawning, I'm spitting. I'm like, but like it won't just purge out. And I feel like I just want this to blast out and just leave me, you know? And there's many forms of purging, not just vomiting. You go to the bathroom, you could shake, you could cry, you could laugh, you could yawn, you can spit, you can, body temperature, all these different things are forms of things purging out of your body on the ayahuasca. So I'm just trying to get it out and I can't. And I'm like there and I'm like, oh my God, I'm on my bucket. And I'm like, I'm so exhausted. And literally, I'm maybe an hour into the ceremony on night 2. And I'm like, I'm so exhausted. And I hear Mother Aya say in my head, well, it's exhausting living this way, isn't it? I'm like, sure is. And so I kind of fall back on my mattress and, you know, um, shaking, shivering, yawning, burping, all the stuff. And then I'm again over the bucket, trying to purge, falling back again, back into the bucket again, trying to get it out. And this was like a cycle that kept going on and on. And, there's silence for about the first hour to 90 minutes of a ceremony. It's called like the sacred silence. Some places call it noble silence. And then the Icaros start. And now these are not the individual Icaros. These are the Icaros to the room. And a lot of times, like when these Icaros start, the visuals like kick into crazy dance gear. And so I'm like over my bucket and I'm like, please, like, I kind of like feel like I'm in my head, like, please help me get this out. Like, help me remove this. And then I hear them, the maestros, start the Icaros. And I'm sure everybody is having their own individual experience. But at that moment, I almost felt like the Icaros were for me to get this out. Like they were literally singing them to help me get it out. And then I would get a little bit, try to get it out, and it wasn't. So then as these Icaros are being sang to the room, I just get like this voice in my head that says, sorry, someone's doing something on the TikTok. And so um I hear in my head, and I don't know if this comes from the maestros, I don't know if this was coming from Mother Aya, I don't know if this is coming from my higher self, but it was like, you don't deserve to live this way. This way that you have been living unconsciously, you don't deserve to live like this. And it was like, you're a sweet, jovial spirit. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve to be living with self-hatred. And anyone listening, what I said in one of the previous videos is what I had gotten during my messages of these is, part of the reason why I've been brought to do the ayahuasca is one, to heal myself, but also to share it, because some people will feel called to do the ayahuasca from hearing this stuff, and some people will not. And some people will feel like, you know what, that sounds interesting, but it's not for me. Or maybe some people, it's just not for you because it's not for everybody. And some people don't have the means to do it or the way to get there or all of this stuff. And the ayahuasca had told me this time and last time at the last retreat that people will be healed by just listening, by just hearing my story, by just hearing what I'm healing. It lets them know that it's possible, and that it's not only possible through ayahuasca. It's possible through many different ways, and people need to know that the healing is possible, that they can release it, that they can change, that they can transform it, that they can release, that they can live differently, that they don't have to live this way that they've been living. And so when I'm saying for myself that it was telling me that I don't deserve to live this way, having some self-hatred that I had no idea I was operating from, it's the same for you. If you're someone who is dealing with that, like, you don't deserve to live that way. And, we all have to know that. So, some of the other messages that I was getting at that time is that, my, I just have notes that I wrote down after my thing. So that's what I'm looking at here after the ceremonies. I was told that your happy nature is not aligned with this. Like, this belief that is deep, this wound that is deep, is not aligned with my actual nature of who I am and how I am. And so I just start sobbing. And then there was I'm like sobbing, crying, holding the bucket, and it's just like the tears are falling into the bucket. And I'm crying like, damn, like I don't deserve to live this way. All of these things, this self-sabotage that has played out in a way that has been so hidden and has been so not aligned with the way that I actually see myself in my mind. And so, seeing how deep that it is and releasing that through the tears. So again, I fall back onto the mattress after I kind of get another wave of energy left from me, and fall back onto the mattress. And I'm now at this point, my hands are vibrating and pulsing. I'm honestly can't even have the strength to grab the blanket. And I might have said this in the last video, but it actually happened on the second night. So if I did, correction, it actually happened on the second night, according to my notes, was because that first night I was also too weak to cover myself. But this message that came from not being able to cover myself was this night, because that other night before was not getting as much messages. But because I took less medicine, I had more words coming into my mind. It was less, the visuals were strong, but it was not completely taking over the visuals. And so I was there, and it's freezing. And like I've said already in every video, Peru is freezing at night. And so, especially in the Sacred Valley, collects the coldness. And so even though we have very warm blankets and all of this stuff, they give you one of those old school hot water bottles at this facility. Like I've talked about, the Soltara in Costa Rica is much more climate control and accommodating and more little luxurious. But this place that we did it in Sacred Valley, I was so grateful to do it at. But it was freaking freezing. And so I lay back completely exhausted and I'm freezing. And then, oh my gosh, I'm so cold. And then I hear Mother Aya say, well, you need to feel how cold you've been. I'm like, damn, that hurts. And it said, this coldness of my heart, I must feel that this is not a way to live. So that's why I'm too weak to get the blankets, is because I need to feel how cold I forced myself to be because of all of this stuff, how I made my heart cold, how I made my mind cold, and how I iced out my own pain. I iced out my own feelings. I iced out other people. And there I am, shivering on the floor, not able to move. And I'm just like, damn, I really have. You know, I've done a lot of healing over these years in the times that I've been posting these videos. So maybe people might not see me as a cold person, but in my life, in my younger years, I was so cold. And it was the only way that I knew how to survive. It was the only way I knew how to protect myself, was to be in that cold masculine energy. And I talked about this last year when I did ayahuasca last August, how on one of the nights, Mother Ayahuasca told me, forget everything that you know about feminine and masculine energy. Forget everything. Most of it is poisoned with our concept of feminine and masculine in our duality. She said, throw everything out that you know about feminine and masculine energy. She said, I'm going to tell you one thing. Feminine energy is when you've been hurt and you continue to love. You continue to be soft. You continue to be nurturing, even if you're hurt, even if you've been broken, that you still love. You still are soft. You still are tender and give love where it needs to be. And that's what mothers do a lot of times. Not all mothers, but that's what mothers tend to do, you know, kind of by definition. Masculine energy is when you've been hurt and you close off. You shut your heart down and you get cold and you put a shell on. You put an armor on. So that made perfect sense to me in how I've been in my masculine energy so much throughout my life. You know, so I accepted the coldness that I forced myself to live in. And I'm laying there with my head near the bucket. And then also because this was the first night was the full moon. And then this night was the night after the full moon. So it's just a tiny little sliver of the moon. So because of that, and because this is a complete darkness ceremony, they do allow the curtains to be open. Now, if you were to do the ceremony around the full moon, the curtains would be closed because it would be way too bright in the room. So because thankfully we're around the new moon, the curtains were fully open. So we could see the dark sky from where I was then upside down facing the other direction. And then I, see the stars. And I'm like looking out the window at the stars. And as you guys know, I'm very connected to aliens and the stars and the star family, the star people, all of that. So that brought me a lot of comfort at that moment. And when I was looking out the window, I heard in my mind, you are a sweet, funny soul. And this is why we gifted you these incredible gifts of Soltara and last year Rhythmia. And it was like showing me like, I don't deserve to live in this self-hatred. And that's why the universe is orchestrating this healing for me. That's why the universe is creating this scenario for me. And it's creating scenarios for all of us. We just have to see them for what they are. We need to look beyond that lens that we have lived through and see beyond and see the gifts that we're being given by the universe, by people's energy, by people's kindness. Like what these maestros are doing, they don't know me. They don't owe me anything. Like I'll never probably get to see them again. I just have a photo with them, so being gifted these incredible experiences to be able to do this, So then I cry in gratitude and I look out the window and I see the little stars twinkling and I'm like, oh, and I get the message like, look, and your star family's here. Like, look, you sweet soul. You don't need to live this way. And then, so I'm crying, looking out the window, just completely grateful. And, obviously I'm on psychedelics. So, you could take this literally or not. You could say I was having some type of hallucination, but I really saw, different than the visuals, different than the patterns, different than the pintas, different than all of that. I saw a light in the sky and it went deep, deep, deep. And I just knew in my heart, like, these are my alien people. This is my alien family. And they came and they showed me a little light show, a little light dance to confirm that they're here with me and that, they're supporting me in this process. And I just, and I'm like, oh, I like start crying. I'm like, wait, I stop. I'm like, wait, oh no, oh my God. And then, so I smile and I just got the feeling like I know it's the grays. And, there's a lot of controversy around the gray aliens. Those are my homies. That's my family. I don't care if you are stuck in duality of thinking that they are evil or dark or this or that. They've never been that to me. So if you want to live in your spiritual battle and ignore the light and dark within yourself, go right ahead. So, the little light twists and turns, does a little dance for me. And then I got like the feeling like the grays were there and that they're proud of me. And that also, not only is this helping me and healing me and helping my family and helping my bloodline, even though, I don't plan to procreate forward, at least backwards, but that it's also helping them too. And that by me going through this experience is also helping the grays in a way. It's helping their evolution in a way. It's helping their healing of their ancestry as well. And so then I got a little bit of a download at that moment where I was told the grays are a projection of whatever humanity needs them to be. They don't care about their identity. Their identity is irrelevant to them. It has absolutely no meaning because they are existing specifically as a projection for us. So the way that they show up in our reality is in a way a service of them showing us what we need. So if humanity needs to see fear, then they will see the fear of abductions. They will see the fear of invasion. They will see whatever they need to. But if humanity needs to experience expansion, then they will be an asset in helping us evolve as far as expansion goes. So I thought that was very interesting because they're going to be whatever is needed of them because that is what they do. They're just simply a projection of our reality. And that's how they use themselves in order to help us evolve. So, okay, you want fear? Sure. Invasions, war, abduction, probing, animal mutilations. And that's where humanity was more so at some time ago. And now the narrative around the aliens is becoming more expansion, is becoming more forward thinking. Are they us in the future? Are they helping us? Are they going to give us technology? Are they going to save us? That's the new projection of where humanity is at now and what they need now. So then we get to the part where the Icaros, the individual Icaros start. And so basically they come up and sing to me. And so I had been struggling to release, obviously, still. I had been struggling to release it the whole night. And other people's Icaros were starting to cause me to really, really shake. And so my hips were shaking so intensely, and it wasn't just from like shivering cold. It was like out of my control. My hips and my legs were shaking so much. And that was starting. So I was not the first Icaro. So they started people next to me. And then as it got closer, and then they're in front of me. So as those individual Icaros started, it started shaking my hips and legs. And I was like, "Oh my God," like, it was very uncomfortable. And so basically, I was told that they're clearing me, that they're cleaning me, that basically, like, kind of cleaning my womb, so to speak, cleaning my sacral and my root, so to speak. And, I probably maybe talked about it in one of the other videos before, but, you know, some of the things that were coming up at this time were, when I was 16 years old, I lost my virginity to rape. And I know I can't even say that on TikTok, so I'll probably get a little violation, but it is what it is. Grow up, TikTok. So uh, that is something that has caused a lot of the manifestations of the self sabotage as well. So even though this kind of wound started before that, the wound has been rewounded, 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 rewounded. So that was another thing playing out, So my hips were shaking, and it was like telling me that it's like clearing all of this manifestations of the self-hatred wound out of me from the different parts of my body that it has played out from. And then, the ayahuasca was also saying, like, there's no judgment of this. Like, don't allow it to be any judgment. I also had a lot of sexual deviance after that, obviously. A lot of people become hypersexualized after those types of experiences. So, the ayahuasca was like, it's no judgment about these things. It's not like, you did something terrible to yourself. There's nothing else to feel like any type of way about. And the ayahuasca was like, this is it. This was a way that you knew or attempted to feel love. The same way that you did the spiritual seeking and this and that, and even the celibacy and all of these different things. These are attempts when there's a self-hatred wound, but I guess, for anybody to feel love. It's just an attempt to. And it was a young person's unknowing attempt to feel, to experience. And, the same way you're going to take a shot at anything else, um, that was an attempt to feel love in some way. And so it worked to remove it. And it was like literally shaking my hips so hard that like my uterus, my bladder was hurting. Like I was like, oh my God, like please, like this literally hurts. I'm shaking so hard, but it was telling me like, this is what we're working on. So like, just trust it. It's safe. You're in the safest place you could ever be. You're held in the safest hands. These people, these Shipibo maestros for thousands of years have held this space. You're safe. If your body feels out of control, it's okay. And so it told me that it's going to be brand new. I'm going to be brand new. And it also talked about, how the celibacy was the right thing for me to do as well. That was the right thing for me to do at that time, 3 years ago and currently to take that step towards healing. And that was what I needed to do. And let's see. And I just got more confirmation about how like this self-hatred had been everywhere I went, every choice I made, every project I started, every time I allowed myself to receive less than what I deserved. Um, Even though it was foreign to me, because like if someone treated me bad, cut off. Oh, you lied to me, done, out of my life, all of that stuff. That's why I'm saying like it was foreign to me. It was actually like really deep in the shadow. It wasn't like I was living with this in my whole life. Like I'd be like, people be talking about like, stuff like that. And I'd be like, I don't know. I love myself. I'm good, And it's like those were other attempts to try to heal and protect myself from that wound. So, then as the maestro is about to sing to me, I got to run to the bathroom and I can't run. I can't walk. So I make my way to the bathroom. Thankfully, Gemma, the facilitator, the ayahuasca is also working through her. She knew to come to the outside of that door and walk me back because I would have not made it back from the bathroom. And so, I was being told by the ayahuasca is like, even though you're not able to purge by vomiting, it's not coming out that way. It's purging through the sweating. It's purging through the shaking. It's purging through the bathroom. Trust that it's leaving you. Even if you feel like you want to get it out this way, trust that it's getting out these other ways. Little bits here, little bits here, little bits here, little bits here. It's all getting cleared out. And so then the maestro sits in front of me, and I have enough strength to sit up in front of him and, have my energy open and then allow him to really see my energy in its, direct form. And I'm like, once he starts singing, it's so like literally almost feels like energetically like hands went into like me and like started pulling stuff out. And so then I got the bucket and a little bit's coming out, but hardly anything, mostly spitting, mostly yawning, some crying, some shaking. But right when he sat in front of me, as he first started singing, I heard in my head, which it sounded like it came from him. But, obviously he doesn't speak English, but like it sounded like a telepathic message from him. But again, could be the ayahuasca. But he just said again the same thing that the ayahuasca had told me multiple times that night was, "You're such a sweet and jovial soul. Like, this is not you. This is not who you are. This wound that you've been carrying is not who you are." And I felt him singing this song to me. And again, like I said, when they sing these Icaros to you, you feel like the most special person on the whole world. That you're like, wow, thousands of years of tradition right here, right now, all for me in this moment. And I felt the energy getting pulled out of me, and I'm rocking, I'm shaking, the song is intensifying. Now, as I said before, these words that they're singing in Shipibo are very simple. It's stuff like remove, 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 move up, 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 out, go like leave, release. They're guiding the energy with these Icaros of what they see in the energy field. And so other people start aggressively vomiting as he's singing this stuff to me. So I'm crying and I'm shaking, and then he seals up my energy and I feel it. And I'm like, okay, thank you. I collapse again back onto my mattress, and then I cover myself up, and but I still feel like something is there. I still feel like almost like I said, like a parasite or something is still not gone. Like it didn't feel 100% gone. I felt like maybe like 70% gone. And I'm like, oh, so I say in my mind, like, okay, there's still one more Icaro. There's still one more Icaro. And so I'm like, okay, I say to in my mind, like, please, mother, not meaning Mother Ayahuasca, meaning the Maestra, like, please help me release this. And it's still visual. Like, mind you, this whole time, it's visual stuff happening, psychedelic. And then so eventually she makes her way around, the Maestra makes her way around, and she sings to me. And again, I'm at my bucket. I'm mentally like, please help me remove this. I purge a little bit more. And then Mother Ayahuasca says to me, like, it's okay. We are removing it through all of these different ways. Don't feel like because you didn't get to puke out what you needed to puke out. Don't worry. Trust that it's leaving. Trust that it's going. Trust that it's not going to come back. Trust that it wasn't yours anyway. So then she is done singing to me. I lay back down again. And then as she starts to sing to the guy next to me, I'm forced back up because then I'm back over the bucket. And, I got a lot of visuals in my head at that time. So sometimes there's like the ayahuasca visuals with your eyes, and then sometimes there's pictures in your head. And so a whole bunch of images in my head come in, and I can tell what the guy next to me is dealing with. And it is very related to what I'm dealing with. So that's why I'm seeing a lot of images in my head of what he's dealing with and what his Icaros are removing. And that's why I was like, I tried to lay down, but then I was back up because the stuff that is being removed from him was very parallel to what was being removed to me. And some very specific parts of the self-sabotage are very specific to me as well. So I'm getting all of these kind of intense images of what I believe his is connected to. And he'd never told me that or, opened up about that. So, I can't be confirmed, but I saw a wave of images that I felt were during his Icaros were from him, and they're parallel to mine. They're so similar to the things that I was also dealing with. So then I'm back over the bucket again, because that was something that was still lingering. So I felt better after his Icaros, and then I settled down. And then I'm just laying looking at the ceiling and everything simmering down. And then I got this really big revelation that I'm not going to talk about yet. I'm going to talk about it on Tuesday, Tuesday Night Live, this coming Tuesday, because it's kind of a little bit of a different tone. Because now the medicine is starting to kind of dwindle a bit. It's not as aggressive, not as physical, not as intense. And then this is kind of just thoughts and things start coming for the rest of the night. So I'm going to talk about that specific thing, which is a big revelation of my life, and a little funny, a little silly, a little shocking for some, but that I don't want to change the tone of how serious this is. But that I did get some other revelations at that point. So obviously we have an election coming up, and so obviously, before doing this, you're supposed to have a media detox. And that was impossible. We had a Trump assassination attempt. Biden got out the race. Kamala went in without even being a single vote, with no democratic process. The freaking JD Vance guy coming in, it was just chaos. The whole thing was absolute shit show chaos. So like, as much as I wanted to media detox, the shooter, the MK Ultra stuff, BlackRock stuff, like all of this stuff was pulling at me. As much as I tried to remain neutral and try to remain positive and try to look at this from not duality, I'm getting pulled in every single direction. And it's like, I felt those energetic pulls on me. Once I got to Peru, I felt like, oh, thank God, I'm free from this energetic pull that is in the US right now. And then on my second night of ceremony, these were one of the little revelations that came up that night, was basically the ayahuasca was like, who gives a shit? Who cares who wins the election? And, some people are not in a place to hear that. They're like, well, you should care. If Kamala wins, it's communism. If Trump wins, it's fascism. Like everybody could glitch out on it and, get really sucked in. But the ayahuasca was like, who gives a shit? It doesn't fucking matter. And basically was like, it's a sinking ship. It's a lose-lose situation. Whoever loses, loses. Whoever wins, loses. It's a lose-lose situation. There's no winners. And I'm like, well, that's true. And basically, the ayahuasca was like, who cares? Let Kamala win. Let her win. It's another repeating of history. They said if Kamala wins, it's history repeating itself in a dramatic way, where Eve in the Bible was the first woman. So she was blamed for all evil and all wrongs that happen in the whole world. And every single person still has to get baptized because of evil Eve. And then in Greek mythology, we have Pandora, and she opened the box that ruined everything. And they're like, and you know what? If Kamala wins, it's a win for women, but it's the same old song and dance that's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. They get to put women as the scapegoat of the destruction. A woman will have a couple months in office and get blamed for the end of America like it hasn't been fucking 200 years down the drain, going swirling down the shithole. Like, I was like, well, you're right, Mother Aya. Yeah, you're right. Who does care? It's a sinking ship. It's like, wow, you've won the prize. A broken something. Like, you're right. You've won a broken system that is in an irreparable state. Okay, you're right. You're right, Mother Aya. Who gives a shit? um, so, let's see, how much time do I have here? Oh, right at the hour. So I probably am only going to talk about night 2. I thought I was going to talk about nights 2, 3, and 4, but again, this is where I am. So one thing that I did want to talk about, maybe actually I'll talk about it in the next one, because the next one was 8 on 8/8, which some people call the Lionsgate portal. And so, I know some astrologers say that there's no such thing as a Lionsgate portal. Some other people say that it's because Sirius and Leo constellations are something, and that it's basically the portal is the entire month of Leo, basically. And that because it's in the sun. So I'll talk about the astrology stuff next, because there is some little interesting stuff. But I had a lot of really cool astrological stuff, not just from the new moon on the first night of the ceremonies, but then 8/8 was cool. And then also because my own birth chart was very aligned with what was happening during those ceremonies. So, so then at the end of the ceremony, there's this thing. I forget what it's called. It's a Shipibo word, but I think it basically translates to suck. And when some people have something that is very heavy, very intense, maybe very dark, or it could be a deep illness, it could be a deep wound, it could be a deep trauma. When something in that energy field, when they're looking and they see those spots, when the Icaros are not clearing it or realigning it, sometimes they need to do a little bit more in depth of a healing. So I didn't receive one of these, which was not surprising. I didn't feel like I needed one. And not because like, wow, I'm so, I just instinctively knew that this was not going to be for me. I just knew it wasn't going to happen for me. Of course, if it did, I would have accepted it. But yeah, I just knew that when they talked about it, that it wasn't going to be for me. And then in the ceremony, when they started doing it to people, I knew that it wasn't going to be for me. But the person on one side of me and the person on other side of me both had it done to them. So as I was laying in one direction on my side after, as the medicine was wearing off, I saw the Maestro. So they just keep it with the same gender, So like if it's the male Maestro, we'll do the healing on the male, and then the female one will do it on the females. So, and then like the male facilitator will be with them and the female facilitator will be with them. So they keep it very like, it's not anything weird. But basically, if there is something on their energy field, which is still like very heavy and like kind of stuck, and you guys remember when I talked about like my shadow work journey, I had something that was removed from me when I did the shamanic journey with Chelsea, my best friend. She does these shamanic healings, and this was without plant medicine, side story. But this thing that was almost like a peach pit, that was like a fruit pit that was from my heart and in my gut was removed, and it was like stuck, So I very much, when they explained kind of this, I had already a visual of what it was for me, was like a seed. It was like a peach pit. So I don't know what it was for these other people because they're not me, but that was kind of what I think energetically it's like when something is kind of still stuck and it's not getting moved from the medicine. It's not getting moved from the Icaros. It's not getting moved from the energy stuff. So I was laying to one direction on my side, and then the guy who was on one side of me, they came over and they did this type of thing where they actually put the Florida water in their mouth and they actually suck on the person and spit it out, and suck and spit it out, and suck and spit it out. And it was happening right in front of me, and I was watching, and it was like, this was not performative. This was not like for the sake of it, because like you could see the Maestro was getting exhausted doing it. You could see he was really working hard to do it. And then right as like I started to turn over, it was finishing. And then the person on the other side of me, the woman, she had it done by the Maestra, and they did it to her. Hers was not as intense, but it was just like really interesting seeing this energy getting cleared from them. So then we it takes a while for the medicine to settle down and settle out. And then, and I mean, I have it on my notes for night 2, but it might have been on night 1, now that I think of it, but, maybe I was wrong. I don't know. I thought my notes were pretty accurate because I did them as close to after the ceremony. Obviously, when I get back to the room, you can't write. You're like still out of it. But then, they wait for the energy to settle in the room. and then they'll call the ceremony. Then they allow the maestros to leave. The facilitators will come and check with each person and say, how are you? How are you feeling? Do you need help getting back to your room? Are you going to stay in the Maloka? Do you want to go to your hotel room? Can I help you with anything? Do I need you to get you anything? Is anything going on that you want to speak about? And then after, they kind of go to everybody and make sure that everybody's okay, whoever needs to get help back to their room or wants to stay or whatever. And then I decided I wanted to go back to my room. So thankfully, because I took less medicine that night, by the time of the end of the ceremony, which is around 2 a.m.-ish, I was one of the first people out. So I was like, oh, good, I can walk. I put my jacket on. I had my light working. Unlike the last night, the fairies didn't have to help me home because I was able to get there myself. I had my light. I go back to my room and I'm like, okay, good. Like, I'm pretty excited to get back to my room. Now, actually, I felt like I had to put my fingers down my throat and make the rest of the way. So kind of at the end of the ceremony, I was told by Mother Aya that this self-hatred wound is 95% gone. There's still 5% left that needs to be removed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to my room and I'm going to put my fingers down my throat and get it out. And so luckily the universe stopped me from doing that because that was not what needed to happen. The next night was when that needed to work on, and that needed to work on in ceremony, not after. So that was my plan for going back into my room. But then when I got to my room, I opened the door and there's a cat sitting on my hotel bed. So I opened the door and I'm like, and the cat is like, and I'm like, what the hell? And then, so I'm like, and I know we're not allowed to have the cats in our room and I don't want to disrespect the facility. So I'm like, oh my God, how did this cat get in here? So then I go to grab the cat to take it out. And it's like, no, I'm tired. I'm sleeping. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to kick you out, but I need to respect this place. This place has been so good to me. So I pick up the cat. I put it outside the door. I close the door. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, now I'm just going to go right to bed. Now that I'm in the room, I'm not going to do anything else. Nothing else is needed of me. Enough has happened tonight. Then I turn around and the cat is back in the room. And then my heart's racing. I'm like, what the hell? Is this like a supernatural experience? What the hell? How'd the cat get back in the room? So then the cat jumps back on the bed and I'm like, okay, well, maybe we can cuddle a little bit. So I cuddle with the cat for I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's purring up a storm. It's like, I'm asleep. I'm sleepy. Don't kick me out. And I'm like, okay, I'm petting the cat. And then I hear something else happening. And I'm like, me and the cat both are like, what the hell is that? So I jump up and I see another cat getting into the room. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay, so this is how the cats are breaking into the room. They're breaking in. Apparently they know how to open the window. So then I flash my light. The other cat jumps out. It gets scared. And then I'm like, okay, this is a little too much. Because if you're in here, the other cats are going to try to come in here. I'm so sorry. I need to kick you out again. So I get the cat, kick the cat out. And then I lay down. And then I hear the cats trying to break in again. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. They're meowing out of the window. I had it secured so that they couldn't get back in. And then I had a great night's sleep. I actually got a really good night's sleep. I had weird dreams about Kamala Harris the whole time of this ceremony, the next several days as well. I had a dream that she locked me in a closet, which was and she was being creepy, So whatever that is about, I don't know. But it was a lot of weird stuff that happened before I was locked in the closet. And I can't fully remember. But anyway, so that's night 2. I have 2 more ceremonies left. And someone says she's bad news. I'll send you the link. Courtney, I don't give a shit. I don't. I'm so sorry. I appreciate it, but I don't care. I don't. It is what it is. It's a sinking ship. It's done. America's crashing. And no woman, man, child, they, them, bear could save us. Yeah, she's bad. They're all bad. Everybody's bad. Every single politician. So, Yep, the bear, exactly. You don't have hope? I'm not saying I don't have hope. I'm saying I don't have fear. I don't care. I don't have fear. Is what I'm saying. They, them, it, exactly. Okay, so everybody, tune in for the next part. I thought I was going to get to all the parts today, but apparently not. So, just tune in for nights 3 and 4. And thank you for listening. And again, like I said, this experience happened at Soltara. Check out the first part of this series to hear more about them, their facility, everything you need to know about that type of logistical stuff if you're interested in doing it. Also, the ayahuasca playlist that this is on has my other ayahuasca experiences that I did at Rhythmia. And, if you want to compare the two, I will also be at the end of this doing a series talking about Soltara and talking about Rhythmia and really seeing what's the right match for you. Because, with Soltara, this was such a pure, authentic experience. And I really could not fully appreciate it until I experienced it. And like I said, like experiencing it is like feeling like thousands of years of tradition specifically individually to heal you. And I think, part of the reason why I had a lot of these very deep healing, I had so much healing in my first experience as well. But this deep level, I think was due to the personal nature of both maestros individually working with you and then individually tailoring your dosage. And then those same maestros all these days checking in with you as a group and sharing and getting more information about you. And so it's just a lot more of a tailored experience. And I feel like that's why I was able to really release the things that were holding me back. Of course, I needed the other experience to kind of remove my shell that had been around me. But then this, I was like, damn, like when I felt like this is what needs to be removed. And then when they came and sang to me every night, I felt them taking it out. And that was like something that I wouldn't have been able to do without that individual experience because uh I didn't get all distracted by these other things. I like stayed in it and was like, okay, this is what's being worked on. And if it takes all 4 nights, this is what's being worked on. So I had a great experience and stay tuned for the next part. Thanks, guys.